Happy New Year, everyone. It's amazing that we're entering the 5th year of this series. I've been doing an episode every single month for nearly 5 years now, which has been an interesting journey. In the second half of this video, I'm gonna go over some of the good and bad things that happened to me over this last year. But looking back 5 years ago, when I was still in law school and just started this series, I couldn't imagine that I'd actually be running a law firm today, and let alone a law firm with 12 people in it. It just goes to show how things can change from year to year. And for those of you who've been here since the beginning of this series, of which there are quite a few of you, I appreciate all of the support that you've given to me and the channel over those years. Anyways, I'll go ahead and get into the numbers now, and then I'll do an annual recap on the other side of that. As a reminder, last month our net worth was around $69,000. As always, let's start with the good stuff, the assets. The biggest change here was liquidating my Roth IRA. Not something I wanted to do, I've been saying that for months, but it ultimately happened. We've been winding down that IRA over the past few months to make sure that we had enough liquidity to get through these tough months here, and also to make sure that we had plenty of cash to pay off debt payments. Obviously, there's not a whole lot of liquidity to go, at least that wouldn't be something like a credit card balance with a bunch of interest attached, so we're not in a comfortable position by any means. I did want to comment on my law firm valuation here because it's not entirely arbitrary. I mean, it is to the extent that I'm not planning to sell it, but baked into this valuation would be a couple of major things. One being that we consistently have around 6 figures in retainers on the books at any given time. And retainers, for those of you who are less familiar, are basically customer deposits for a law firm. This is money that a client will give to the law firm, and it is held in a special client account. And generally speaking, as the attorney works on the matter, then the attorney bills against that retainer and then takes that money and it becomes revenue. So it goes from deposit to revenue once the attorney does the work. But it's sitting there as a deposit in the retainer account in the meantime. And on top of that, we typically have anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000 in accounts receivable at any given time, of which the vast majority of it will be collected. So between the retainers and the receivables, you're typically looking at anywhere between $150,000 and $250,000 worth of stuff. And that's completely setting aside the fact that the law firm is currently producing around $100,000 in actual fees collected monthly. Now, it's not a very profitable operation at this time, but that's generally how I'm coming to a very ballpark figure of this 275 number. It's not picked out of a hat. That said, if it was worth $10 or $1 million, it wouldn't really matter for my day-to-day life. So it would feel wrong to completely exclude it here, and it does make me feel that much better to have a higher asset number and try putting a value on that. Anyways, when it comes to assets, one other thing I should mention is that one of my Chicago properties had to get a pretty significant amount of work done recently with cash that we didn't really have, so that has not been fun, but those repairs are nearing completion, so ideally there won't be anything major for a little while, but real estate sometimes just the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to making repairs, especially for older properties, so this hasn't been too fun, but we've made it so far. In short, we had to do some waterproofing work to one of the basements, and that is always going to be a pretty expensive thing, so that was that. What's a few more $1,000s here and there and everywhere?
Just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Anyways, it leaves us with around $1.18 million in assets. And now onto liabilities. Not much to see here other than making minimum payments just like the last month. So if we switch on over to the debt paydown view, we paid off almost $4,000 in debt over the last month. So that's good to see. So that's a few months in a row now. Actually, I think it's almost 6 or 7 months in a row now of consistent debt paydown, but it still was not enough to leave us positive on the year. So we actually gained around $27,000 in net debt over the last year, which you hate to see. I was expecting to have a much better finish to the year, but I wasn't good enough to make it happen. I do have to keep an eye on the credit card balances here in particular, because the promotions that I had when I took out a lot of these are going to be ending pretty soon, or at least in the coming months. So I need to actually get started on really paying down these in earnest, or really focusing on those first, just to avoid having the big interest spike, because credit card interest is not fun to pay. But in total, that leaves us with over $1.1 million in liabilities, which means our net worth has decreased down to $66,000, which is a decrease of over $3,000 from the previous month. Our debt ratio has increased to 94.37%, and our passive income remains at approximately $800 per month, although that's not really the case this month because we had to pour quite a bit into real estate repairs, so really it's negative cash flow on this month. A lot of cash flow in future months is going to go towards replenishing reserves before we get to paying down more debt with that cash flow. So not a very eventful month, but we did survive 2024, and I want to go over some of the good and bad things to highlights from this last year. Starting with the good. For one, the law firm billed over $1 million in fees, which was really great to see because I started this thing back in the middle of 2023 and didn't really start pushing on it in earnest till the very end of 2023. So really we're looking at, call it a year, maybe a year and a half if you're generous, of actual attention towards this law firm and really focusing on it with the vast majority of my time. And we were able to bill and actually collect $1 million in fees. The end of the year tally isn't totally reconciled yet, but the current unofficial total is around $1.027 million in revenue. It's definitely not profits, but it is an achievement to actually have produced $1 million in legal services that were actually paid over the last year. Right alongside that is the fact that I've unlocked the ability to close over $100,000 in legal services in a month. I've done that quite a few times this year, which is really cool. We're doing that pretty consistently now, which is a very valuable skill. I really would put a star next to this one because I know that in a worst case scenario, I have this sales ability to fall back on. And it's not that I'm some savant when it comes to selling, but I did not have this skill before, or at least I didn't know I had it, and I've been working on it and trying to get better and better as time goes on. Some of it is just knowing what to focus on with marketing, and then when you actually get to the sale, it's a little bit easier because you're dealing with the potential client that you actually want to deal with and that you're really best served to help. And at the same time, it's just learning some of the mechanics of selling with scripting and tonality and actually getting better at that. And of course, there's a confidence building aspect to it too, and sort of flexing that muscle of being able to ask people for money for things, which is definitely a skill that has taken a while to learn. But this might be the single most important thing that I've learned this year because it's something that I can transfer into any situation going forward. The next good thing I want to highlight is that we hired a managing attorney for the law firm. I mentioned this a couple months back. That has been a very pivotal hire for the law firm. It's very early still. It's only been a couple months since that's happened, but it's been a big development since I've been able to move away from a lot of case management, which takes a lot of time. It's super important, but it's not very scalable. And especially when I'm trying to focus on a bunch of other things, it's very easy to let certain things go by the wayside when you're focusing on actual case management. So bringing in someone who's better at that than me and who could just focus on that was something that I really wanted to do by the end of the year, and we were able to do that. And this is going to be a big unlock for our firm heading into 2025, and it's already been a nice development for the end of this year. And there's a lot of potential upside remaining here as we enter the new year. The fourth good thing I want to highlight, which was really to remove a thorn that's been in my side for quite some time, but that was selling the steam cleaning business. There are some remaining debts and things to take care of there, but I am actually making money from the sale there to pay down those debts. So at the very least, I'm not having to fund ongoing losses anymore, which is a big relief because I put a ton of money into what effectively became a money pit. And that was for multiple years. It took up a ton of my savings, especially when my income was reduced and really just gone while I was starting this law firm and trying to get things going. So that's gone now. That should be great. And I'm really glad that's at least out of the way. I don't have to think about it nearly as much anymore. Even though I really wasn't spending a whole lot of time on it, it still was taking quite a bit of money away, money that I really couldn't afford to give. And the last one, which really is above all these others, is the fact that I'm in good health. My family's in good health as well. And there's not a whole lot more you can really ask for. Sure, financially things weren't great this year. We didn't take home a bunch of money or get to do a bunch of fancy things, but it's hard to complain when you're healthy. So that's good. Now onto the bad. The first one is the fact that I didn't have any net profit for the law firm. And this is mainly because we lost a ton of money at the very beginning of the year where I overhired a bunch of people all at once before we had the business and really the wherewithal to actually pay for all that. So a lot of that came out of savings and investments that I had before. So that hurt. And those big losses at the beginning of the year set things back a bit, but at the same time, we did learn quite a bit from it. If things go even a little bit right in 2025, we would expect to have pretty significant profits on the law firm side, but it's still a very delicate situation and a lot could go wrong, so we have to remain very focused and keep pushing hard towards our goals. Number 2 on the bad list is that our net worth decreased. Pretty obvious here. We didn't see the positive net worth growth that I would like to see year over year, but that's entrepreneurship, I guess. I took risks and the risks have not paid off to date, but at the same time, how do you value the skills that I've learned in this last year and the machine that we have built? And even though it hasn't thrown off profits previously, it looks like we have some serious capacity to actually have a nice profitable 2025 if we can get a couple more things right. One of those being actually bringing in a lot more referral business. Since to date, nearly everything has come from paid ads, and that is a nervous existence since we have to keep putting money into the ad hamster wheel and then just trying to bring in whatever business we can from those ads and then feed more money into the ads, and it's very exhausting. And trying to get some more diverse sources for our potential clients would be great. One of those being actual referrals from other attorneys. We have some of those going now, but as we get more well entrenched into the community and as I build my network here, mainly in Houston, that should be very, very helpful for getting more of those referrals. We actually are working on a couple of very major referrals right now with a couple law firms, which would definitely be a huge catalyst for the firm if we can add that on top of the business we're already doing with paid ads and also with some of the repeat clients that we have. We're still a very new firm, so there's a lot of room to grow there. And to all those negative Nellies out there who think I should just go get a job and just abandon the firm and abandon all the clients because, what's an ethical obligation anyways? For the actual worst case scenario here, let's just say that we can't figure it out, we can't get things to work with our current team. What would actually happen is people would get laid off, which would suck, and I don't want to do that by any means. But the team would end up being smaller, and then I would just run a small law firm. I know how to close business. I can work those clients. I've gotten better at what I've been doing over the past couple of years as well. We definitely wouldn't be growing at that point, and I'd be really frustrated with how things ended up, but it's not like I'm going to starve. Downsizing is not the goal nor the intention, but thought it should be said. The best case scenario is that this does work and it works very well in excess of what I could make if I was on a tiny team or if I was solo. And at the same time, I'd be providing jobs and opportunities for way more people than just myself. So I'd much rather strive for that, even if it takes a while to see the fruit. Anyways, back to the bad. On a somewhat related note, I would rather liquidate my Roth IRA and keep things afloat than to just quit now. And that's why I did that. I liquidated my Roth IRA. It's not a good result by any means. I liquidated some other assets as well. And it did allow us to keep operating, but no longer having that IRA balance to dip into is definitely not a good result. And the last bad thing I want to highlight here is that our debt increased, which I discussed previously. And pretty much all of that was in the first half of 2024. So the second half actually saw debt decrease overall. So at least that trend is positive. But going into 2025, the debt pay down really needs to accelerate so we can start getting some breathing room again and have the ability to weather a serious storm if one comes. And I'll throw in one final bonus good development to end things on a high note, and that's that my son was born. So that's been an awesome thing. It's a very magical experience to put it into some sort of words. And my wife and I are very happy. Our whole family's very happy. It's our first child, and it's also our parents' first grandchild, so it's an exciting development for everyone. And it definitely puts some things into perspective. I'm sure I'll have more to say on that in future episodes, but for now, I'll leave it at that. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for future episodes. I put out a new one of these on the first of every month, and I thank everyone for their support over the last year, and I wish everyone the best in 2025. I'll let Jameis take us out.
Unwavering faith, ultimate belief, depending on the Lord. That's all we got.